So as we start this 1.1 Strength Foundations program, I'm going to go over some very basic form stuff with you so that you understand how to do all of these moves correctly and safely. So the first thing is I'm going to talk to you about posture. I'm just going to show you how to have good posture and how to make sure that you're always keeping good posture no matter what movement you're doing. So when you're thinking about having good posture, the first most important thing is to make sure that you're always in line. So when you stand, you should always be from the front, hip, knee to toes, second and third toes right here, okay, should all be in line from top to bottom, unless we're doing a variation of a stance. But in that case, you will know that there's a variation there. The second thing is that from the side, you should always have alignment, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle. So from the front, hips, knees, and toes, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle. That is going to be the most foundational part of you making sure that everything that you're doing has good form. So you're watching for symmetry while you're doing these motions. So I'm just going to go over some of these very basic movements that you have in your program and make sure that you feel really confident doing them. The first movement that you have is a broomstick stretch. You can do this with a band or with a broomstick, it does not matter. So you're just going to bring your arms all the way back and all the way forward, all the way back and all the way forward. And this is just going to work on stretching out that rotator cuff as well as those chest muscles from top to bottom. You've got lots of different chest muscles. This helps to stretch them all out. So then after that, you'll be moving into your floor and seated YTA. So with the floor and seated YTA, it's really important that you make sure that your thumbs are always pointing backwards. So you never want your thumbs to be pointing down, you want them to be pointing back. Okay, so Y, pointing backwards, and then come back to neutral, back to T, making my thumbs aren't pointing toward the front, they're pointing toward the back, and then A, okay? And just making sure that those thumbs point back helps you target those muscles that we're trying to hit. It's also really important with this one that you make sure that you're squeezing your shoulder blades behind you because there's no weight or gravity involved if you're doing it standing or seated. So you'll have to really put that work in by just squeezing your shoulder blades, pretending like you're resisting against something. You can also do it on your belly, which will give you some resistance from gravity. Same thing, Y, T, and A. Next, you're gonna have your step up to curl and overhead press. So this may feel a little bit complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. You can just use a stair. I'm gonna show you with my block. You can even grab a couple water bottles. A couple water bottles are really lightweight. So what you're gonna be doing So remember, when I'm doing this motion, I want to make sure that I'm always in line. So from the side, I have ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle. And then from the side, knee and ankle, and my knee is right over my toes. Everything's in alignment. I'm going to step up. If this is too hard for you to do it on one leg, then you're just going to put that foot down once you stand up, and then curl to overhead press, okay? And then come back down, and step down to the ground. Now, if you're feeling really balanced and confident that you can do this without wobbling or falling, you're going to step up, knee comes up, curl to overhead press, and then come back down. All the way down, and then step back to the ground. Now you're going to do 15 to 20 on one side, 15 to 20 on the other side. Your arms are going to likely fatigue before your legs will, so you're going to finish the set with your legs and then finish what you can with your arms. So, whoa, let's pretend that I'm doing this and my arms are just so tired, okay? So, oh, I can't do this anymore. Okay, but I can tell that my legs can still go. I'm just going to use the leg portion of the movement. Now, when I'm stepping, there's a couple important little cues I want to talk over. So when I'm stepping up, I want to make sure that I'm planting my foot firmly on the surface, and then I'm going to use my glute to push me upward into standing, and I'm squeezing my butt in order to get my hips to come forward so that I'm really, really sturdy from the side. I'll drop these weights and show you from this side. So I'm going to stand up. I'm squeezing my glute and pushing my hip forward. My belly button is in really tight, and I'm drawing up from my pelvic floor all the way up to my upper abs, keeping my core really stable. And then I'm going to put that leg back down. And then there are 3 variations of this movement. So that was the first one. That's called the sagittal plane. The frontal plane is simply stepping up to the side and then lifting the leg. And then you're going to step down and then come back to neutral. When I step up, it's really important that my knee isn't caving in or caving out. My knee is going to be right over my toe. So normally I'd ask you to bring your head, neck, and shoulders back and make sure that you have the good posture, but in this instance, I give you permission to look down and check the alignment of the knee to the toe. And then press up, lift the leg, and then slowly come back down. With this motion, control is really important because this is all about precision motion and making sure that you have really strong hip stabilizer muscles. And this is also what we're doing in place of squats right now, since squatting is going to come, but these multiplanar step-ups give you a really good foundation to do squats without injury and pain because they give you a really well-rounded and functional hip complex. The last set of step-ups is going to be transverse. So I'm starting facing perpendicular to the block. I have to stand pretty close. I'm going to lift my knee up. I'm going to turn at the hip, not at the knee. So my knee is staying right over my toes. I'm going to rotate at the hip, plant that foot down, and then I'm going to come up, rotate, and then rotate back down. Notice how from this side, I made sure that my hip was moving, not my knee. So instead of going like this and making this knee all wonky, I am just opening up the hip, placing that down, and then I use this glute and all these wonderful little muscles in here to pull me up, turn my torso, and then slowly lower me back down. Next we have dumbbell calf raises. Dumbbell calf raises are super simple. If you feel like you need a little bit of something to hold on to, you can use the stairwell because it doesn't need to be a high piece of equipment by any means. You're going to drop the heels down as low as they go, and then you're going to lift up onto your toes. Drop the heels down as low as they go and lift up onto your toes. So it shouldn't be very complicated, but you might need a little bit of stability. Again, just making sure that while you're doing this, your toes and your knees stay in line. I don't want your ankle caving out like this or caving in like that. You should have good ankle to toe alignment while you're doing the calf raises. Next we have a barbell chest press. So you're going to start with this barbell. If you have an Olympic barbell, don't use that right away. You want to make sure that, since an Olympic barbell is 45 pounds, if you're a beginner lifter, you're likely not going to be able to do that with good form or without injury. So we're going to start with a higher rep range, and you're going to use a lighter piece of equipment. So you're going to, now I'm going to show you an incline because then you can see me better, but you can vary the position of the bench and hit different chest muscles, which we will do as your program progresses. So you're going to sit down on your bench. If you have a rack to put it on like I do, and I just don't have mine set up, you can use that. So you're going to place this on the rack, make sure it's ready to go, and then you'll load the weight on. If you're using weight, I suggest that you don't do any weight at first, just see what you can do. And then you're going to lay back down And then let's pretend that this was rack. I unrack it, the bar should come right down to my sternum, and notice how my elbows go right out at a 45-degree angle. And then I'm going to press, thinking about using my chest muscles to push the bar away from me. And then I bring it back down and then press up. Now, you are assigned to do about 15 to 20 of these. Do as many as you can until you feel quite fatigued. So in case you couldn't see me, this is the position that my elbows are in while I'm getting ready to chest press. And then I press out and then come back in. So making sure that they're at a 45-degree angle, and that would give you a good chest press form. Now, your next workout is a pulling workout. So we're gonna go over these basic pulling motions so that you are really confident doing these motions before you get started. So in order to warm up the back, we're going to start with bird dogs. So when you're performing a bird dog, the most important thing is to make sure that your back stays really nice and steady while you're doing the motion. So I'm going to lift opposite arm, opposite leg up at the same time. My back stays steady, and then I'm going to lower my arm and leg down slowly. Push up, and then come back down. Come up, and come back down. My thumb stays pointed upward, and I am not extending through the back. I am making sure that I'm nice and stable through the spine, and I come back down to neutral. Come up, and then back down to neutral. Really important in this motion is you're gonna pull up from the pelvic floor, your belly button comes to spine, your back presses against the ceiling. Imagine that's the cue that you're imagining. And your rib cage is gonna connect down. So you're connecting and becoming conscious of the core, and then you begin the motion with that steadiness coming from the core muscles. Next, you're going to start working on your barbell stiff leg deadlift. If you have an Olympic barbell available to you, you are not going to use this kind of barbell right away. You can start with a lighter barbell to make sure that you don't hurt yourself, because a regular barbell is quite heavy. So you can even just not put any weights on this curl bar at all and just use this the way that it is. Going over our perfect form again, you're going to make sure that you're in line from hips, knees, and ankles, and from the side, my ear is over my shoulder is in line with my hip, which means that my abs are engaged and my hips are tucked. And then I'm ready to perform a good deadlift. When you are deadlifting, your hips are shooting straight back. So you're not going to be rounding at the spine. Your hips are going to be hinging. So a deadlift is a hip hinge, which is like you're imagining that your torso is a door and your hips are the hinges that they're turning on. So I use my glutes and my hamstrings to lengthen down, and then I'm going to pull up, squeezing my glutes and hamstrings and tucking the tail at the top just by squeezing the glutes really tight and squeezing the abs. So my core is really tight, my shoulders are back and down, my chin is in, and then I'm going to come down, pushing my butt back toward the wall behind me, and then I'm going to stand up. So you might feel a nice pull in your hamstrings. That is good and totally okay. Whatever range of motion you have available to you, I want you to do that without rounding the back. So if at any point you notice that you're starting to round your back, that is the end of your range of motion. You should stop with the range of motion you have available to you before your back starts to round. Look, so I have good posture, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle. Press the butt back toward the wall behind me, lower the bar as far as I can, and then pull all the way up, squeezing glutes and hamstrings and abs at the top. Now, with a wide grip lat pull down, it's going to be really important to make sure that you have good mobility at the scapula. When I'm talking about having a good form when you're doing a lat pull down, it's really important that we talk about mobility at the scapula. So most of the power and the strength from a lat pull down comes from this huge muscle that we have right here called the lats. It starts here and wraps around and connects through our back. So when I'm getting ready to do a lat pull down, I'm going to grab the bar a little wider than shoulder width apart, and I'm going to let it pull my arms up a little bit as I sit down, and then I'm going to retract the scapula down, and then I'm going to pull. And when I pull, just retract the scapula, pull down, pulling the bar down to my sternum, and then letting it go back to neutral. Pulling the bar down to my sternum and letting it go back to neutral. But if while you're starting, you need to simply make sure that you have good mobility here at the shoulder, you can grab the bar and simply retract the scapula down and let it go. Retract the scapula down and let it go. And that can be a good way to warm up those muscles that may be a little bit unwilling to cooperate. The final movement that you have is a seated cable row. So you're going to grab your handles, okay? And then your core is going to be in tight. Your neck is not coming forward as you pull. A lot of times you'll see people doing this as they pull. Your neck should stay in neutral as you pull. So you are going to pull those weights in, but before you do this, I want you to make sure that you pull your scapula back. So from the back, that's going to look like this. So I'm going to pull my scapula back and down, and then I pull. I really sincerely hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them for you.